This week on the Shameless Podcast.
In a space where people are not able to have frank and honest discussions, the first question is why? Why are people struggling to actually break down those barriers and they feel like the only way they can communicate with each other is through a passive-aggressive nature, right? And I don't know whether or not, is it the environment that needs to change or is it the mindset that needs to change?
Well, what you can control is your mindset, and maybe you can't control the environment. So I would say, what should you focus on? Maybe the thing you can control. If you're going to be successful, you are going to come through a toxic workplace. 56% of CEOs, this is from the Business Insider, 56% of CEOs have self-reported toxic workplace. So that's gone up by 36% from 2023 to 2024.
Hold on, explain that. The reality is that if you're running away from something, you might run into the same something and you don't have the skills to be able to cope with that.
So you need to then kind of get that stamina of understanding that this environment may not change. So what I think is how you can break the cycle is trying to be transparent, try to be vulnerable, and trying to open that communication with your team and ensure that your team treats you like a human. What HR people do, this is free advice. That's why you're listening to this podcast. The people who complain the most, they're going to say that person is probably not a top performer.
Yeah.
They're probably at the bottom. And they're probably going to be the first one out.
Sometimes we are afraid to do something. You fear shame. I don't want shame. We're trying to break that burden by sharing stories of courage, resilience, and we want to be able to celebrate your story.
Shameless.
So, no. You've been on a journey now.
I'm listening.
Have you not? You've been on a journey starting up your business.
My pettiness.
I'm just like, yeah. And I'm there like a real conversation, right? So you've been on a journey, right? Where you are starting up a startup and you are looking at sort of working with people in a very different light. And the key of what you're trying to build right now, didn't you hate it? but the key now is
it's so literally, it's just I can, for real, this is not even a joke.
Yeah.
This is a true life story.
Tell me.
Every day, it is a struggle. So I remember I had a conversation with someone in my team. It was last year. Shame. They probably know who they are. And they're like, I just don't feel motivated to do work. And I laughed in their faces. I'm like, you think every day I'm here, I'm so excited to do work. I'm here because I'm disciplined, so I'm doing work. So literally 2 days ago, I wake up to a message from one of my team members. Hey, I got something feedback from someone or not. Hear the feedback. And literally got knocked off my feet. I literally, you know what I mean? I had to claw myself to a state where I could still deliver for my day because my dreams don't care about my mood.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. But then now, in line with our topic of toxic work environments, right? How do you then balance out that your mood, your circumstance, your environment, with still being able to be true to the work environment that you want to create? Because at times, surely it's a bit easier to put that to the side and say, you know what, today, I am not going to be all these wonderful things that people want me to be. I'm going to go a different route. Do you ever have those moments of
I think that's okay. Well, for me, it's okay if you don't like it. It's that sort of vibe. And the fact of the matter is, I think that one of the things I demand from my team, not even ask, I demand from my team, is to treat me like a human being. They have crappy days. There are days where some of them don't even show up for meetings with clients, and we had to pick up the slack for them. And no one's getting shouted at or cussed out. It's quite an understanding environment. So the same compassion and empathy that I have for you when you guys have a tough day, I expect the same in return. And sometimes it might not even be me going, I have a tough day. It's just, I'm not going to be able to be on that call today.
Yeah.
I just can't do it. Like, I literally cannot. I can only work on producing, sometimes we have to do like QA texts, read reports, write contracts, whatnot. I can do that. I can't do anything that requires me talking to a person and having to care how they feel, because today I do not care how anyone feels except me.
And then, because the whole thing of what we're talking about, I think, has two sides of a coin. Yeah. And I'll talk about a discussion I had with somebody when it happens to be a BI lead, right?
Oh,
imagine that. So I bump into them. And
do you want to let people know what this because I think this is a very inside thing. Yeah.
So essentially, at a previous space and time, should I say, Nono embarked on this journey on building a community around business improvement, and essentially that community looked to did train 200 people across 3 different sites, 2 continents, and the whole idea was different people gamifying the process, but also learning about themselves, building the ability to project manage, and building their capacity as a leader. So those became BI leads, or people who carried a set of values that were synonymous with where the change that they want to see. So did I do a good job in explaining?
Yeah, you did. That was a good synopsis.
So I bump into this person and I'm just like, yo, long time, how you doing? What's happening? And then they proceed to tell me, and then they're like, I'm okay, but I feel like I'm not necessarily at my A game, right? I feel like I'm in a bit of a rut. I'm like, is it one of those things like a temporary blip? Because I also feel the same way because of da-da-da-da. And then they're like, nah, it's been a while. It's like 3 months I've been in this like down. I'm like, 3 months, ooh. Have you seen a shrink? And they're like,
3 months. I'm like, girl, you just started. Just call me in and say, yeah.
so then the part for me that really struck me was when they said, is it the environment or is it my mentality?
Yeah.
And I was like, I think it's a bit of both, but and so I think you should, if it doesn't work, then change your environment, right? Then I thought about it 5 minutes, 10 minutes later before they left. I was like, wait. I changed my mind. I actually think it's like 100% a mentality thing, because you change your environment and you go somewhere else and you find the same problems there. And really the reality is that if you're running away from something, you might run into the same something and you don't have the skills to be able to cope with that. So I still stand by that. And I don't know whether or not, this discussion about a toxic work environment, is it the environment that needs to change, or is it the mindset that needs to change within that environment of an individual?
Well, what you can control is your mindset, and maybe you can't control the environment. So I would say, what should you focus on? Maybe the thing you can control. I also think that, and I say this respectfully, is a lot of the time people just think feeling bad or feeling low, like not enjoying something. It's like, oh, I've been feeling like this for like 2 months or 3 months. And like, oh, woe is me. I'm like, honestly, you need to have a little bit more grit than a 3 month like low. And I'm saying this like honestly with all the compassion, because you know how much I have heart for these peeps. But it's just that the fact of the matter is, when I say come to me when it's been like a year or 2 years or 3 years, I genuinely mean that, because sometimes the cycles are that long. Yeah. And if you want to truly be successful, and I know we're talking about like toxic workplaces, but if you're going to be successful, you are going to come through a toxic workplace. 56% of CEOs, this is from the Business Insider, 56% of CEOs have self-reported toxic workplace. So that's gone up by 36% from 2023 to 2024.
Hold on, explain that.
So what it means is in 2023, when Business Insider did a report around toxic workplaces, they found that the people that they surveyed said 36%, 33% said that they were in a toxic work environment. Yeah. Then they did the same survey in 2024, and the CEOs themselves said that 54% said they had a toxic workplace. So if a CEO is going, yes, My environment is toxic. Trust and believe it's not going to not be toxic tomorrow.
Yeah, fair enough.
So you need to then kind of get that stamina of understanding that this environment may not change. It may not change for a while. It may not change for a year, 2 years, 3 years, but it may change on the 4th or 5th year. What are you going to do on those longer steps? And the concept around being successful that I was talking to you about is you have to have grit for a long-term pain, uncomfortability, all that stuff that you're thinking, I wish it wasn't like that. I wish my boss wasn't like, hey, can you outlive your boss? Maybe your boss will get fired or you'll get promoted.
Oh, fair enough.
You'll get promoted in that context of work. Like you'll get promoted into that and you'll be the boss and then you can be the change you want to be. Or you might
just
be
perpetuate the same toxic. Just like, well, there you go. So,
and I'm being like, let me just finish with this point. I have had people who've come to me and said they want to be bosses.
Yeah.
We've worked with them. We've got them promoted. Now they're sitting in the seat. Now they understand their boss.
They're like, oh,
because they're doing the same damn thing their boss was doing.
And now it's just like, wait, I thought.
So what I think is how you can break the cycle is that trying to be transparent, try to be vulnerable and trying to open that communication with your team and ensure that your team treats you like a human. Because especially in some high power distance cultures, where when I say high power distance, I mean that the boss, the leader is like the boss and we all look at them like, oh, boss. All the answers are from you, boss. That's pretty much what I mean. In a very simplistic term. Anyway, I digress. The whole point around that is that when you find yourself in those sort of cultures, you'll find that typical boss person in that culture, one, they want to be called boss.
Yeah.
They are in their title. Without their title, they will probably be in a bowl crying, okay? They're in their title. Secondly, they believe that they know everything.
Yeah.
And they will not take kindly to getting feedback from you. You have to understand this. This is extremely important. You need to understand this, okay? Because if you're in that culture, then the way that you tackle some of these toxic workplaces will not be the same as if you're in a low power distance culture where you can call me no. You don't have to call me boss. I can still cuss you out, but we can call me no.
Yeah, that's actually very interesting, eh? Because different cultures require a slightly different approach. Different bosses within the same culture could also be very different. So that's actually very interesting. So we're supposed to give some stories.
Yeah.
And I've rambled on a little bit, took a little side step.
No, go ahead and tell me your story.
However, the first thing is that I'm your host, Zigman Guides, and I am the host of the Shameless Podcast, brought to you every Friday. And what we try to do is we try to have real, authentic conversations. And what we're doing today is we're going to have discussions around toxic workplaces led by examples from submissions that we had from different people. So, without any further ado, I'm going to jump straight into it. You need no further introduction. Everybody knows you.
Oh, wow. Okay. If that's what it is, if everyone knows you, then...
So, here we go. I've got this scenario of this story that's been brought forward. Tabo out of South Africa.
Okay. I love the name Tabo. Hi, Tabo.
Hi, Tabo. So, Tabo is all about the passive-aggressive guru.
Okay.
Chief El Presidente of passive aggressiveness. To be honest,
passive aggressive people.
To be honest, I'm passive aggressive too.
I know.
Yeah,
I know. As in, we get on. As best as we can.
Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with passive aggressive people, no.
As in, there are times when it's challenging.
No, but I mean,
as in, you know what?
What?
It's funny because you go, you're passive aggressive and thingy. Next to you, someone might say, I'm confrontational.
You're confrontational.
But I think in the spectrum of life,
you're confrontational. I don't know. Next to me, and then what? Like as a spectrum of life, you're still on that end of the you're not.
I don't think so.
What?
I really don't.
I
actually really do. I hate
confrontational. You hate the confrontation.
I hate it. I would rather avoid it. Like I would put my head in the sand. I'd rather that.
Nice. If you believe that Nono is a non-confrontational person, please put a comment right here, right below. I beg. There's no harm. You can even just go at I remember the story. No, did so that we can really just blow this out of the water and just like.
I really.
Anyway, so let's move on because
if you write.
I'm passive aggressive, and that's okay, right?
Go ahead. It's okay. It's a safe space. Go ahead.
Anyway, so I work at a company where the culture was. I worked at a company where the culture was toxic, but no one would ever admit it. Instead, everything was passive aggressive. My colleague would send me an email like, just a friendly reminder.
Oh, not the friendly reminder.
Just to friendly remind you that I did this task last year in record time, but no pressure if you need more help.
That is a shots fired.
That was a shots fired.
I'm like, meet me outside. How about that?
So, look, this is never my greatest moment, but like I did send, just a friendly reminder mail.
Did you really?
But I didn't say,
but you've done this before
better. No, I didn't say that.
Okay.
However, I then was just like, they didn't even reply.
Because they thought you were probably a pat. So first of all, this is the thing with you passive aggressive people. You can't walk to someone's desk. I can't call them.
But then I sent another email. And then that other email was question mark.
You are trolling people.
And there's like 20 question marks.
You're proud with your troll right now.
I'm not saying I was proud.
Very proudly with
I am sitting proud. I was just saying, I was like, hey, like question mark. I didn't feel it was passive aggressive. I was just like trying to get the attention of like, hey guys, we're trying to move here. No? Was that like passive? Okay.
So listen, the thing about it is it sounds like, before you continue, it does sound like you met your passive aggressive match because they didn't respond.
Because
someone like me would have found you at your desk.
But after the question marks, I don't know where they sit. Non-confrontationally, yeah. I'm at your desk. What are you saying? Mother Air?
To my eyes.
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Bang.
Punk. Go ahead.
Anyway, so that wasn't the worst part, right?
Okay, yeah.
The worst part, when I politely disagreed with someone during a meeting, they'd smile and say, "That's so cute, Alex. You're so passionate. Bless your heart." No, I can't do that. Like, that's a lot. Bless your heart.
That thought is on the same level as you and your little friend.
Oh, sweet. How cute. You and your little friend.
But someone goes, you and your little friend, you know your friend. Oh, you and your little ideas.
But that's just, that's so cute. That's a novel idea. But I just feel
honestly,
like
that's cool. Let me tell you why that's so cool. I wish I was that person. I genuinely do. I wish I could say that, like, instead of like, because I'm someone who I'd probably think I'm not rolling my eyes, but my eyes will be like rolling all over the place.
But
like,
okay, look, we are laughing, but we're laughing at this, and
I am laughing. Which is bad.
Is it a bad thing to laugh about it, or is it okay to laugh about it?
It's okay to laugh. It's funny.
It's funny, but that's somebody's pain right now.
No, he said he left. Didn't he say he left?
I never got that far.
You said worked past tense, so it's funny. If he was still working, I would still be laughing.
There's some people out there that are in this space right now.
Listen, you need to laugh, because if you don't laugh, you'll cry.
Fair enough. And in every moment, if we take life too seriously,
humor. I was even laughing at the fact that I was crying over something the other day.
Is it?
Yeah.
What are you crying about?
About like toxic whatnots that I can't control. Can't control.
And you can't disclose.
And I cannot disclose.
Anyway, so it's like so cute. You're passionate and bless your heart. They'd never outright criticized. No, they were way more creative than that. It wasn't until I realized that this is what was happening all the time that I left. So they didn't realize that it was a passive aggressive space.
So they went in like a beautiful world.
And then they just like, this, I'm being trolled here. But honestly, I'm still a little bitter about the bless your heart thing. So I'm there like
Tabo, but that's funny. Can we just admit that that's funny, Tabo? Like Tabo, can we just say that that bless him heart is funny?
Hold on.
It's terrible but funny.
I just realized something. They called him Alex, but his name is Tabo. Is he out here busy like, hey, my name is Tabo, but you can call me Alex? Because like,
is that really his name?
Well, they said it's from Tabo, but then he go, oh, that's so cute, Alex. I was just like, wait, huh? Tabo. Are you out here busy calling yourself Alex at the same time?
What if it's actually Alex and he just, yeah, that's so good.
It's like, my name is Zigamaikan Gaizo, but you can call me Ziggy.
ODK.
OD.
Mm-hmm. Is your job draining the life out of you? Maybe it's time to take back control. Are you struggling to survive the chaos of a toxic workplace? This course gives you real practical strategies to reclaim your peace and your productivity. You'll learn how to set clear boundaries and protect your mental well-being. Plus, you'll get the tools to handle the drama and build a positive, resilient mindset, all for just $12.99 at t4leader.com.
Okay, go ahead. So how are we helping, like, let's be real, how are we helping Tabo?
I'll be talking about Tabo. So the first thing for me is that in a space where people are not able to have frank and honest discussions, the question that becomes, or the first question is why? Why are people struggling to actually break down those barriers, and they feel like the only way they can communicate with each other is through a passive-aggressive nature, right? And that then begs the question about how you then change the culture in that space. And so what we had at some point, because there was an element of this where at an organization that I worked for, and it was
sorry.
Trying not to disclose anything here, all right?
I know you guys got this is so funny. You probably can't see his face.
Oh, you couldn't see my face?
Was it my face? I don't know if you can see
I was trying to think. I was thinking hard.
Where you like,
oh shit.
Like going down this road. Got back.
I am very easy and calm about this. However,
oh my God. Sorry, go ahead. It just made me laugh because you look like, I'm here. Okay, go ahead.
So at the end, what it was the culture was slightly passive-aggressive. We're not dealing with issues confrontationally or in plain sight, but you're having small pockets of individuals talking about things, and it wasn't really helping change or build the culture that we're looking to build. So what we then had was some sessions and small tools that would try to encourage people to normalize the idea of giving feedback. And those were driven by sort of cue cards that would help you strive to have these conversations, and we'd do it as a group. And the groups were differing in sizes. Sometimes it was a smaller department. Sometimes it was the entire department or sections then compared to a department. And the whole idea was that the more that people feel comfortable to have direct conversations and slightly more confrontational in nature, that became a norm, and in essence you stopped or reduced the amount of times that we would have these passive aggressive discussions and dialogues. The bigger part of that as well was to do things in person, because I think it's easier to be passive aggressive and do these things when you're hiding behind the keyboard warrior, in my example that I mentioned a couple of minutes ago. So I think that idea,
20 question marks, like, really though?
I didn't know where they sat.
Really though?
No, but it felt so good.
And that's the thing, like, so with the petty, like, you know, how I do on Mondays, like a petty guy to be passive aggressive, toxic. I genuinely want to be that person. But like, I just can't.
Yeah.
But I want to, because I feel like I'd feel so good. It'd be like,
So the thing is, I was trying to get some response, but it just wasn't working, and I tried many different ways, and just literally just barraging them with like, hey,
that's really good, because like at that point I'd probably be going to your house and be like, I know where you live. And you don't get there, you don't a restraining order.
They just become complicated quickly.
Exactly.
But and then the other tool that we had outside of those sessions was where we're trying to normalize giving feedback were suggestion boxes where we allowed people to air out their grievances like anonymously, and then
how did that one go?
So
when it's anonymous, are you now a keyboard warrior?
You are, but I think you can also have a more direct and honest conversation, right? And so you had some really honest disclosures of information and or opinions, but then it sometimes...
How did you do the forum? And the reason I'm asking is because the whole thing of like ensure that you treat your leaders as humans.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you guys did it, but I have seen other people do the anonymous thing, and then they have like the leader like standing there and they kind of like read all this crap about you don't do the, and I'm like, imagine if that was you.
Yeah.
Even if you did all those things, really you did.
Yeah.
That can be a lot to swallow because first of all, no one even likes to be told anything.
Yeah.
And then secondly,
about how badly you're doing something.
Exactly.
Even if you're doing it badly.
And then now you're doing it in front of everyone. The same thing that people were saying they don't want done to them. Do you know what I mean? So like, how were you guys doing it?
So the reality is that as a leader, you just have to swallow that and wear that with both.
Okay,
with
so
your
you guys
chest,
were doing it like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like that.
Okay.
By the way, person anonymous said that you're crappy at this and you're creating
in front of everybody.
In front of everybody.
That's tough.
That's very tough. Yeah. But the reality is that if they're talking about it behind your back, right? As a leader, right?
As in, I think that the feedback should be given to the leader. I 100% agree with that, whether it's anonymous or not. I just guess I'm thinking of where was the compassion to the leader because there's still a person. But if they can handle it, then
I don't think whether they can handle it or not. I think sometimes as a leader, you need to be able to face your team head on, and they need to be able to bash you, right? And that's what it is. It's bashing. You will feel bashed. But the reality is that you're not there to be liked by everybody, number one. Number two, you have to be able to have those honest discussions.
I'm curious. No, I'm genuinely curious. Yeah. So you guys did that to that leader. How did that leader react? What was the outcome? What was the output of that?
I think...
Because I feel like this fairy tale story you're trying to spin.
No. No, I think there were two sides. There were instances where they didn't react well at all. Mm-hmm. And then... And
you guys, I hope, were not surprised. You were shocked.
Some people were shocked. Some people were like, oh, "What?" Uh-huh. But at the same time, it comes. The other leaders within the group also have to bear a level of that responsibility, right? And
the other leaders also being put in the thing, and they were reacting.
No, but because
it was just that one leader.
No, but the thing is, regardless of if you are part of a management team, right?
Yeah.
The person at the helm of it can be getting a large brunt of the criticism.
Yeah.
But
it's also
you guys. It's a reflection of yourself, right? So I took it personally as well.
Okay.
And
how did you... So let's start with the person who had to stand there and get bashed by everybody. They didn't react well to the feedback.
Or one of the
sessions. Yeah. But did you guys... Because I think maybe did the means justify your outcomes? Did you end up getting what you guys wanted? Or it was just we felt great, we bashed them, and then we back to the toxicity because he's going to cuss you out tomorrow?
No, because the thing is, I think it gives everybody a moment, or everybody within the leadership team, a moment to reflect, right? So you can live in this sort of pseudo supported view that everything that I'm doing is perfect and yada. But as soon as somebody then brings that form of conversation, you start to then ask yourself a little bit more, and you can double down, or you can have a conversation, right? Where did that come from? Why is that looking like that? And I think that opened up some of that conversation as well.
Were there elements where they doubled down?
There were elements of double downing, but as a leader, you have to choose your battles, right? You have to choose what you're going to let in, you're going to let out, and you're going to double down, and you're going to resolve and try to work on. So I think there were definitely elements of where we worked on certain things. And I say it as we because it wasn't...
all of you guys.
I felt a sense of ownership for that process.
So there's a book that I read
Yeah.
called How to Influence People, something along those lines, by Dale something. And I actually was recommended this book like 2 years ago, and I only got, because like I have a very long reading list, so I only got to it in December last year, and I thought it was hilarious. As in, it's actually a good, like I listened to the book, I didn't read it, and I thought it was hilarious because they write in Old English, and when I say Old English, like when Lincoln was around, so like back in the day, people would write letters like, you, sir, like, and it would be published in the newsletter, and like that's how they would fight. Anyway, long story short, one of the things that they talked about in How to Influence People is you can't influence people by criticizing them. That's just not, you're not going to get to. And I thought it was quite an interesting thing because they even talked about when you have conversations with people. And if you're a good conversationalist, people always think you're a good conversationalist when you don't talk. And you're letting the other person talk, so the reason why I was asking all these questions was not to actually say what you guys did was wrong or good or whatever. Like, I wasn't passing judgment. I was actually just curious as to how did that actually go? Because I have been in environments where we've done the whole boxes with the anonymous stuff. The difference was that with the anonymous, someone would collate that and then give that feedback to the like they would be watching it, like, and it wouldn't be them. They would be reading it behind their doors, and they would be incensed. So I was just imagining, like, wow, when you do it like how would that, like, I'm sure the temperature of the room would maybe increase a little bit. But then what I was thinking is, from that book of How to Influence People, how do you think you guys could have done that? Like the guy who was in that passive aggressive environment, specifically Tabo or Alex or whatever the hell you go by, like what could, in that situation, and understanding that people don't necessarily do well with like negative feedback, how would you have changed, knowing what you know now, how would you have done anything different, if at all?
I think, look, there's a combination of trying to be authentic about that whole experience on having a dialogue and being able to do that.
Yeah.
The first part that I'd like to say is that this was an idea from the management team as well, which was implemented by a management team, right? So it's not like thrust upon them, but it's something that's a conscious decision. So you almost open yourself up for that criticism, and the idea is then how you wrap it up and then get that understanding. But if I was to do it differently or do it again, I think maybe allowing for some rules around how you write your feedback. So put it in
a system or something.
Some structured manner.
Actionable, timely,
specific, stuff like that. And then, because at times you wouldn't really know who is being referred to because it's so vague.
Because they made it like, that
just
is
in the air, right? So
was that me?
Yeah, exactly, right? So then being able to find ways of having it to specific to people, and then allowing them to have that in their own privacy, and
so you wouldn't have done the open forum.
Well, for me,
I think maybe the response could be open. You know what I mean? The response, but like receiving it could be you're reading.
Yeah. So for me as a leader, I don't mind it. To be honest with you, I don't mind. Let's go. Let's do this. We're in the jungle, right? Like it's okay. Mm-hmm. And I know that that's not the same for everybody. Which is fine. So for me, I don't mind being like that. But I think from a larger spectrum and the appreciation that not everybody likes to be criticized, yes, doing it, getting it, but you have to respond and then giving people that chance. Do you think that you don't
mind it because you had high trust in your team?
No, I think I don't mind because my training of my
like
career
how you grew
journey,
up, or like people.
It was like you're just getting it right, like, and it's just like
your grades were posted for everybody.
You put it there, and it's just like you came 45th, but you gave A for effort. I got like a bad score, came last, but well done, you tried really hard. Like, and there's an element of that you just build a certain level of resilience, right? And you then go, okay. But the key is, at least for me, the framing that I then try to have is it personal? Maybe some of it might be, but I'm not here for all these personal views around me and myself. I'm here to try to get to an end goal, right? So I will take it professionally and I'll run with it because you don't know me in any way, shape, or form. So
I think that sometimes people really dehumanize leaders.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's easier to do that or not. And I totally agree with that concept of you're not going to be like if you're going into leadership because you want people to like you, you are in the wrong profession.
Yeah.
Because you're most likely not going to be liked because you're going to be stuck with the tough decisions of who you're going to fire. Like if there's a recession and you have to get rid of 50% of your workforce, who are those 50% of the people?
And you won't be liked.
And you will not be liked.
Task, right?
And you might not even be liked with the people you don't get rid of.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And they'll be like, this guy got rid of half of the people. They're really nice people. And they could have been really nice people, but the business had to make a decision. And the crazy thing about what you said is I was talking just today to somebody and they were like, I was like, oh, long time no speak. How's everything going? And they're like, I made a change in terms of where I'm working from.
Okay.
And I really love it. The person who I'm with and working for is amazing.
Oh, wow.
And that person, I've heard nothing good about them. And I was like, wait, what? That's strange. But the reality is that there are the most vocal people, typically those that are not liking an individual. But that doesn't mean that that is the full spectrum of what that individual has to offer or how their sentiments are. So I think...
An advice that I'd give for people who complain a lot or find themselves in a space that they're complaining a lot, try and complain less because what HR people do is
not just HR people. Even observers of
what HR people do. This is free advice. That's why you're listening to this podcast. The people who complain the most, they're going to say that person is probably not a top performer.
Yeah.
They're probably at the bottom and they're probably going to be the first one out. So just have some self-introspection. Are you a top performer? And that's a hard pill to swallow. Sometimes when you realize that actually I'm not the top performer. Actually, all the time, I'm the one who has excuses. And that's why people are passive-aggressing me or micromanaging or whatever the case may be. And I have to actually make the change for myself. And I think that's the hardest thing to do. You asked a question at the beginning of this episode, because I know you're going to give us a quote and wrap up about basically whether it's your environment, whether you should focus on the environment or whether you should focus on yourself. And because I think we've gone through this whole circle, I think we've demonstrated that it's important to focus on yourself because that's what you can control.
Wait.
What's the quote for the quote?
Wait, what do you mean? I thought you still had more things to say?
No, we're ending up. This is aren't you giving us a quote?
No, but I thought Thabo with passive-aggressive people, he's still stuck in the wilderness with the passive-aggressive person.
No, he's left.
He's left?
Yeah, that was past tense. And I thought we did answer with Thabo. Did we not answer Thabo's question?
I didn't think so.
Okay, so in short, what would we say about Thabo with the passive-aggressive? If someone is passive-aggressive, Thabo, I'll tell you what I would do.
Go for it. Because I'm the worst.
I would go to their desk, look them in the eye, and ask them what the problem is. I would especially if it's in a meeting and someone says something that's really hurtful, it would be like, did you mean to say that to hurt my feelings?
Done.
That's my advice for Thabo.
Wow. So the quote of the day is, you cannot become a peacemaker without communication. Silence is a passive-aggressive grenade thrown by insecure people that want war. But they cannot take accountability of starting it.
Who said that?
I know, right?
I need them to be my friend.
Sharon Adler, an inspirational author and life coach.
Wow, I love that, Sharon.
So, and you know the beauty why that became the quote, right? So I think that and what we talked about a lot of the time is communication.
Yeah.
And that whether it is a intentional grenade or a accidental grenade, right?
Yeah.
The inability to find the right words, the right medium, the right way to communicate is both a lack of potentially skill, will, ability, but also it's not taking accountability for a space, for the actions and for the idea of starting something. And you need to be able to confront through communication, and building that ability to communicate gives the ability to diffuse the passive aggressive space, to make it a better space to work in, and finding those tools to be able to find different ways and communication styles for different types of people become the key for unlocking and making a space a bit more healthy and a bit more productive. And for me, that's why that quote resonates with what we just talked about, because I sent 20 question marks to somebody, and I should
really did. And if you are dealing with someone like this guy, I want you to go to www.t4leader.com and type in "thrive in a toxic workplace" so that you can handle the DKs in your life.
See this face? Yeah, that's me. But you know what? We are actually going to be having a webinar, right? And what's that webinar on? And about
how to thrive in a
toxic workspace. Yeah. So the same thing, we're going to be doing it on a webinar. It's going to be live.
Yeah.
And it's live. So people are going to have chances of like commenting, liking, subscribing, posting. And those who are listening after the fact, unlucky for you, you can still watch the webinar right here on this link.
This podcast is brought to you by Transformation Leader. You can follow us at www.t4leader.com.